My name is Joe. 20 years ago, my wife and I moved to Lake County with our 4 young children and settled down. In that time, we've worked, worshiped, played, and raised our family. Today, I've met the people and discovered the businesses and organizations that make up a vibrant, dynamic community. Join us as we share with you what makes South Lake great. I'm Joe, and Joe knows South Lake. Welcome, and happy Tuesday. Man, today is one of the best days in America, in your life. It is actually Election Day, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. I'm so glad to be here, to be awake. It's a wonderful day. How about you, Jay? You grateful to be here today?
Yes, sir. I am. I'm very grateful to be here and very grateful to be doing what we're doing.
Amen, brother. Look, we have a great show for you today. I want to leave a lot of time for our guest, so we're going to really move through these first sections. Today, we're going to talk about Donut Day. We're going to talk about the most precious right you have. Do you know what it is? Think about that, because you're going to find out when we come back. We're going to continue with our Cup of Joe Gratitude Challenge. Today, we're going to talk about the big stuff. And finally, we're going to have Dr. Allan Zubkin, who has a practice that's somewhat unique and very well needed in today's time in our culture. So glad to finally be able to connect with him and bring him in. Very laid back. It's going to be a very good interview. So we're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, we're going to get started. So don't go away.
Hello, I'm Mary Rhodes with the mortgage firm, your local mortgage lender. I've helped thousands of families achieve the dream of homeownership in Lake County, and I would love to help you. Our team has over 30 years of experience helping first-time homebuyers, veterans, move-up buyers, seasoned investors, and more. Please read our reviews and visit us at mortgagefirmpros.com.
Welcome to Erica's Tea Room. Located in the heart of downtown Claremont, this specialty tea shop offers a traditional high tea experience that can be enjoyed with family and friends. While here, you can choose from over 100 teas from all over the world, and a multitude of teapots are available for purchase. Join us for lunch or choose from one of our special evening events. Call to make a reservation. Erica's Tea Room, making memories with every cup.
And welcome back. Always good to hear from our sponsors. And actually, Dr. Zubkin, who is on today, is one of our sponsors. So we're very grateful to be able to have him in. All right, it is National Donut Day. That's right. How do you spell donut?
Well, if you go by Joe's spelling, it's DOUGHNUT, donut. But everywhere I'm looking online, well, we got it split. We got here's Donut King. Look how they spell it, Joe.
Donut King, the proper spelling of donut is DOUGHNUT. I looked this up. Donut, DONUT, is marketing. So it is acceptable because so many people do it through marketing, but the donut is actually dough in a circle. It's a sweet dough. It's a special thing. I think this is DG's, isn't it?
This is DG Donuts, which they spell it the proper way, DOUGHNUTS.
Now,
which these donuts are insane. If you've never had one, they're literally the pictures don't do them justice. They're the size of your head.
The cool thing about DG's Donuts too is our friend from local pro wrestling. Give me a name, Jay. Les Ayer turned me on to this when he brought these in. I didn't believe it. Apparently, this is one of those cool spots that I love. It's attached to a little convenience store, gas station convenience store. They are amazing donuts. I mean, they're not greasy. The filling is actually real filling.
Well, this one has bacon on it, so I don't know.
Bacon caramel, how can you go wrong, right?
Yes.
And they do a lot of very classic premium donuts. And you see there, some of the things that they're doing is not your standards going to be in, for instance, a Dunkin' Donuts donut case. Look, today is National Donut Day, so I want to encourage you. Locally, we have Donut King, who makes huge donuts. I love their donuts as well. But look, because it's National Donut Day, some of these places are actually doing discounts for donuts, or some are 2-for-1. So if you want to celebrate Donut Day, get to your local donut shop, ask for a discount, look online, but enjoy a donut today. One donut isn't going to kill you. All right, and moving on to the most precious right. I tell you, we have a lot of rights. Do you know what your most precious right is? The right that makes everything happen. The right that allows you to be who you are. The one actual unique right that you have in the world today. Do you know what it is? Well, it's spoiler alert, right? It's election day. It's the right for a true secret ballot. We have rules in this country that mean that people, to make elections as fair as possible, people are not allowed to be within 50 feet of the polling place. At least they're not supposed to be, with signs to influence you so that you feel at all influenced, intimidated, or coerced. This is something that's unique in the entire world today. I don't know, maybe England is as free as we are. But, other places, they're not. And men have fought and died for this right. There are veterans in your own circle. Now, you can say what you want about the guys that went to Afghanistan and Iraq and why it went, but I will tell you this from personal experience. The guys who went did it not for all of those political reasons, but because they wanted to stand up for the freedom you have. You don't even have to pay for it because somebody else has. It's the most precious right that we have, and I'm going to encourage you today, go vote. We here at South Lake TV and Joe Knows South Lake worked really hard to try to get you as many candidates as we could, considering we'd only been on the air for about 90 days, so that you could make informed decisions so we could hear from each one of these. Go vote today. Pick somebody. Figure something out. Next year when the elections come up, we will do much more of this. We will allow you to be an informed voter. You have no excuses. Now, I will also say before I move on, look, if you decide not to go vote today, don't bitch. You got no right to complain about anything if you don't take part in your political system. All right, that said, keep your vote to yourself, and we'll move on to Cup of Joe. Today I'm going to extend again. Did you do yesterday? I hope you did. I hope you sat down and took a few minutes to figure out 10 things that you are grateful for in your life. Now, here's the key. You can't repeat those things today. All right. You can be grateful in your heart. You can read through the list, but you're going to make a new list of 10 things. And the thing you need to focus on, the theme for today is the big stuff. And I'm talking about the big stuff that you get to enjoy that you had literally no influence on. The right to vote could be on that list. Satellites in the sky that let you speak on a cell phone could be on that list. The house that you live in that you didn't build. I mean, you might have paid for it to be built, but you didn't have to swing a hammer. The technology that exists, that you can enjoy the things. How about indoor plumbing? That's a pretty big thing. My grandmother used to tell me stories about going out to the outhouse in the middle of the night. You know, how she used to hate to do it and hold it as long as she could because she didn't want to get eaten by mosquitoes. Right? That's a big thing. Indoor plumbing, flushable toilets. Heck, there are places in the world today that don't even have that. How about the roads you drive on? The technology that allows you to watch me online on your phone. You know, I laugh when somebody says to me, you know, this isn't coming up. That, you know, my phone took like a minute to pick up that signal. You know, I can remember when computers were brand new. 5 minutes was a fast speed. You know, boop, beep, boop. And it'd go on for 5 minutes before you could see anything. That's what I'm going to encourage you to do. Find those big things. Take a few minutes as you drive about your day, as you walk about your house. Find those big things to be grateful for today. And as the week goes on, we're going to dial in, get a little closer, a little more personal. And Friday might actually be tough. So Let's start with the big things. We're getting you in the habit of the list, and I'll tell you, nothing else in your life will do you more service than if you find a way to make a daily habit making a gratitude list. Anyways, moving right along, we're going to go to commercial break again, and when we come back, we're going to have Dr. Allan Zubkin with us. I'm so looking forward to him. The name of his practice is Addiction Medicine. This is a whole subject that is quite unique and sometimes has some misconceptions attached to it. So we're going to talk about all of that. Really excited to have him when we come back. So don't go away, and I'll see you in a minute.
Are you tired of having drugs or alcohol ruin your life? Do you need to get off pain pills but still maintain pain relief? My office in Tavares has programs to help you. While not covered by insurance, program fees are affordable. My name is Allan Zubkin. I'm board certified and have helped thousands of patients achieve these goals. Please call me for further information.
The best things in life aren't items we can grab and hold. They are the moments that grab and hold us. Moments that captivate us, inspire us, and enrich us. Moments that bring joy, strength, and peace. At Sing Insurance and Financial Services, we help you to treasure these times by being there when life's most difficult moments arise. Through our services, you will find independence, flexibility, health, and security that will prosper and protect your life. Whether you are driving that new car, buying that new home, opening that new business, or building a new family, we provide you the peace of mind and freedom to enjoy life's best things. Your next moment is waiting. Are you ready?
Joe Knows South Lake would like to thank the following sponsors. Good to hear from our sponsors again. You know, I love that new sponsor card that Jay has put together because we get to see all the sponsors at once. It's probably the best part of our day is thinking about how grateful I am for our sponsors. And one of them is actually with me today. He has an amazing practice. I really was impressed today to hear the depth of his experience in the medical field. Alan, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Do you want me to call you doctor or doc?
Alan is fine.
Alan, okay. This is Dr. Allan Zubkin. He is the owner and founder of Allan Zubkin, MD, Addiction Medicine. He was a general surgeon at South Lake Hospital for many, many years when there was only one surgeon there. It was him. He was with the Apopka Wellness Center. Again, he was the founder of the Apopka Wellness Center, where he worked for several years before starting Allan Zubkin, MD, Addiction Medicine. He has a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Pennsylvania. He went to med school at Hahnemann Med School. Woo, can't read my own writing. He holds a Doctor of Medicine, and he had a 5-year general surgery residency, and I didn't write it down. Where was that?
Einstein in Philadelphia.
Einstein in Philadelphia. Shame on me for not writing that one down. So you're a Philly boy.
I am. 35 years.
35 years. I have here in my first notes to give us a little history. What brought you from did you come here straight out of your residency, or?
No, I was in a surgery practice in a suburb of Philadelphia, but they needed a surgeon in Clermont, and I got recruited, and my wife and I decided to move down.
Now, how long ago was that?
That was 1989.
It must have been a very interesting time here.
It was a change, but I very quickly found that I enjoy living in Clermont.
I know
I've been
that
here ever since.
my wife and I moved here in '99, and of course we moved to Leesburg, and the guy that talked me into moving here told me that Lake County, Leesburg was a suburb of Orlando, and I was, had to tell him,
Right.
you don't really know what a suburb is, do you? It's quite a shock coming from a city to Lake County, especially back in those days. So you became a surgeon here, okay, and
Right. And that career ended in 2000. I went to the Apopka Wellness Center and I did kind of a broad range of things. And part of that, I got involved with pain management. But then in about 2007, people started knocking on the door and they asked me about a medicine called Suboxone that, quite honestly, I had never heard of. But we were always interested in starting new programs. I got involved with treating addiction at the Wellness Center. I then found that as the increasingly evident problems in pain management during that decade were servicing with the rise of the pill mills, and I found more and more people needed help for pain pill addiction, that I decided to switch my careers. So I moved to an intensive outpatient program in the Villages, and I worked there for 3 years. While I was studying for my addiction medicine boards, somewhere along the way I opened up that private office in Tavares, and then in 2013 I moved there full time. So
Let's back up just for a quick second, because you just really, I find it very impressive when someone with your experience, your knowledge, and your education decides to shift in their career and get a whole new education. I mean, 5 years it took you to get that. I mean, that's not a small investment in time and energy.
when you're a surgeon, Joe, quite honestly, to me, you were a gallbladder.
Oh.
But with addiction medicine, and I'm going to just digress 1 second, try to give the main message that addiction is a treatable condition, that people who are suffering can have their lives transformed, that I found that I was just much happier in that setting, and my relationship with a surgical patient was fairly short, and my relationship with my present patient population extends for years and years, and you can really see how their lives are transformed, and it's very rewarding.
See, now that's why you were willing to do the education, because did there come a point where you just started to see people? You wanted to see people instead of organs. It sounds like the process in the business wasn't working for you because you felt that something was lacking.
It's an interesting fact that when you're in medical school and you decide to choose your life's career, that there's no counseling, nobody kind of tells you what to do. You have to decide on your own, and quite honestly, sometimes you don't make the right choice. So for my personality, I found that this kind of personal medicine where I treat individuals is just a much better fit for me.
So you started to do this through the Apopka Wellness Center.
Right.
It was all because you wanted to prevent people from getting sick, right?
Right. The specialty of addiction medicine it's a subspecialty board under the Board of Preventative Medicine. Not many people have heard of that board, but addiction psychiatry and addiction medicine are subspecialties of that. But when people come into my office, they are suffering. They are unhappy. They are physically ill. They are psychologically troubled. Financially, their resources have been drained. And I try to help them get out of that hole in their lives. And it is true that people who want to better their lives, they have to want it. I can't force anybody to change what's going on in their lives. But if they want it, I provide the tools for them to change their lives. And it's abundantly clear that that is doable. The real problem is that many people do not know that treatment is available. Many people are afraid to come in. So generally, the people that I see are people that walk in the door because they are just so sick and tired of being sick and tired, or commonly because they are just spending themselves into oblivion. They have no money. Their lives have been sabotaged. They can't hold on to jobs. They can't stay in school. Their lives are a wreck. And it's amazing in how short a period we can start to turn that around. And that's
So,
just
let me back
gratifying.
up for a second. So typically, I'm sure by the time you see somebody, they've spent all their relationships. You know, some of them are probably being dragged in by a spouse or a parent or a child or an adult child, most likely.
Right.
I mean, probably the lowest percentage you see of guys who just show up on their own and
Right.
say, "Hey, I need help." You know, that guy you could probably help because he knows he needs
Right,
help, right?
right.
So let me ask you this. You and I talked a little bit about process and how that word itself is probably a little bit of a misnomer. And there are a lot of misconceptions in your approach to the treatment of addiction because I think it's probably fairly new. I mean, is that true?
Right. Until recently, there was only 1 or 2 residency programs in the United States that graduated doctors in addiction medicine. Now, of course, everyone knows that there's an epidemic of addiction. That's changing. So more and more doctors are focusing on treatment, and the trend is to try to get the primary care doctors involved in this treatment. But often they're so busy
Yeah, they're doing everything
that
else.
it's hard for them to
Makes sense.
take on treatment. But one of the main messages, and I often use the story of the blind man and the elephant. So what is addiction? So you surround an elephant with 6 blind people, have them walk towards the elephant, try to describe the elephant, and everybody gets a different picture. One person says, the elephant has like a thick snake, and the person that feels the elephant's leg says, the elephant / addiction is like a tree trunk. Some people say, oh, it's like a thin worm if they're feeling the tail. Everybody has a different approach to addiction. But it's very clear from research that's been done for the last 50 years that in its full expression, addiction is a disease. A disease in medicine is any alteration of structure or function. So what we're really talking about is a brain disease, and it manifests itself in behavior. So when somebody comes into the office, they say we're addicted, but part of the job is to establish that is a true medical diagnosis. And there's multiple criteria, but some of the most important ones are their lack of control over the substance, their inability to stop using their substance. More and more time is spent obtaining, getting, and using that substance. And what are we talking about? We're talking about heroin, pain pills, alcohol, methamphetamine, crack cocaine, etc., etc. They often put themselves in dangerous situations. Like, driving under the influence is a common example. They have cravings for the substance. Their relationships are breaking up. So all these are criteria that you can use to establish a medical diagnosis of addiction, and then you can offer treatment. Now, one of the things that you frequently encounter is, that person is a bad person, or that person just has fallen into bad habits. But
They're just sinning.
Right, they're just sinning. But with the rise of modern technology, we don't do this clinically, but in the research field. So you can take somebody in the midst of their addiction and put them in, I use the term fancy pants medical scanner, like a PET scanner or a functional MRI. And you take a scan of their brain, and you can see abnormalities in brain function. And then if you treat their addiction, 6 months later, repeat that scan, those areas of the brain that were impaired are now restored. By definition, any alteration of structure or function is called a disease in medicine. So that's why we use that term.
I find it very interesting that we now have, if we track back to the beginning of Alcoholics Anonymous, for instance, we've known since then that alcoholism and addiction is a disease, but we still as a culture have a hard time treating it that way, as a culture. Accepting that it is a disease, lead us through the steps. Somebody comes to you, and do you take tests? Do you have an interview? Once that's done, what's the
Right.
next step? Give us the
Right.
steps you go through.
Right. It's a simple office appointment. Like I said, people tell you what their issue is. They're not trying to hide that.
Yeah, they're beyond that,
Right. And then I tell people, I said, if you put $1 million on the desk and ask me for what is the best treatment for addiction, I go like this. I said, it's a combination of medication and counseling. And through the office, I tell them how to do that. Now, almost everybody leaves the office with a prescription. They go to the drugstore. They get on the medicine. I mean, one of the most amazing things that you can see is, on a Friday afternoon, 20-year-old girl comes into the office, literally looks like she's been dragged through the streets by a car. And then I put her on Suboxone, which is one of the main medications that we use. So what happened in this particular case was, so this disheveled, ill-appearing, suffering girl walks into the office Monday morning. She's dressed to the nines, her hair and makeup are done, and it's a transformation that's happened, and it can happen over the weekend. You see that often enough. I mean, I've been in medicine for more than 35 years. I have never heard the word miracle drug used as many times with the main medication that we prescribe. It just absolutely works. I mean, when you go to a doctor for sleeping pills, if you have sleeping problems, they'll prescribe something, it often doesn't work. When you go for depression treatment, here's your antidepressant, it often doesn't work. This medicine does exactly what it says it's going to do.
So the use of Suboxone, it probably alleviates the dope sick, the withdrawal symptoms in a large degree at least gets them to a place where they can manage. But at that point, now you've taken care of their initial problem. How do you deal with them moving on? We talked about how often some people do, and I'm sure it's going to depend on the individual patient, but typically, how often do you see somebody? How long does it take before you put them, say, okay, now it's time for you maybe to consider counseling?
Right. Well, like any disease, addiction comes in mild, moderate, and severe categories. So sometimes I have to see people weekly, and that extends for any length of time. Sometimes I see them in 2 weeks. Sometimes I see them monthly. One of the interesting sort of facets of this is that this medicine that I prescribe is available, quote, on the street. So many people have already bought the medicine on the street and they're coming in for a legal prescription. But anyway, the goal of the medicine is to get people feeling normal, to allow them to engage in a recovery network, a recovery community. So, I often suggest AA or NA or private counseling. There's no cookbook. It depends, upon what their lives are like. If you have 5 kids and you're trying to hold down your job or get a new job, counseling, while very valuable, sometimes practically it can't be done. So honestly, in my practice, the medication is really the mainstay of treatment. But clearly, underlying issues are there. A significant percentage of my people have had sexual or physical abuse in the past.
That was actually going to be my next question. Is that a determiner when you have your interview?
Right. Well, again, it sometimes comes up during that first visit, sometimes not. But then there's all the psychiatric diagnosis, people that have anxiety, people that have depression, PTSD patients, bipolar disorder patients. There's a whole range of psychiatric diagnosis. The fancy term in medicine is comorbid. So people that have those disorders often have addiction as a comorbidity. In other words, they use drugs to treat their...
They're self-medicated.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. They're self-medicating. A whole other scenario, and some people say this is high as half of the patient population, person that has had no problems in life other than the fact that they got into a car accident. They go to a doctor. They get prescription for pain medicine. In the late 1990s, and again in that first decade of 2000s, there was an increasing emphasis in medicine on treating pain. It was called, pain was the fifth vital sign. Coupled with some of the drug companies, you probably heard, these stories, that the drug companies were pushing drugs. So somebody that had
because they're making money.
Right. Somebody that had a car accident would all of a sudden be put on OxyContin, oxycodone, throw in some Xanax, throw in some Soma. They're all central nervous system depression drugs. And quite honestly, the level of addiction training with doctors when I was coming through was none.
Zero, yeah.
Right. So many patients became addicted to their pain medicine, you might say through no fault of their own, because they listened to a doctor's direction. Here, take these 16 pills every day. But now they have addiction. So, in other words, it's exposure to the drug to your brain by whatever mechanism that causes the brain changes. So
it's I read this statistic once that said that 65% of alcoholics and addicts who get clean will relapse after 65, and it turns out it's just that reason. Do you a lot of your patients, are they seniors? Or do you see more younger people, veterans, or does it cut across all demographics?
Yeah, the youngest is 18, the oldest is 75 in the practice. So it cuts across all demographics. Alcohol, unfortunately, is particularly hard to treat. I'm just telling you my practical experience. Alcohol is
readily
legal.
available.
It's commercials all the time. And one of the sort of less nice things to think about, and a lot of people, alcohol is their only friend.
Right. Allan, look, I don't want to cut you off, but
Sure.
we're running out of time. I want to give you time to tell the audience, if they know somebody who's struggling with addiction or they themselves are struggling to addiction, how do they reach out to you? I think we can actually even tell them how, and we can bring up your
Right.
website.
Well, I have, my practice is on my cell phone. In other words, you can call me directly. And there's a website, allanzubkinmd.com. But you just pick up the phone and call. Now, the way the office is structured, the office visits are not covered by insurance. The fees are reasonable. And the medication that I prescribe is covered by insurance. So there's not a whole lot of reason why you can't call. You just have to take that step to reach out to get treated, and you're going to be happier. You're going to have a much better life. So.
And let me also say that, my wife and I work, I don't want to say in the field of addiction, but we have worked with a lot of addicts. And I got to tell you, with rehabs running upwards of $40,000, $50,000 a month, fees for an office visit sound reasonable to me. So thank you so much for joining us. You've been a great guest. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. We could have all kinds of further discussion if you...
I'm sure I could do it.
This might not be the setting.
Here's the thing. I could probably, if I had the time
Right.
I could put a panel of people. We could have a 4-hour discussion on it, but we don't have the time for that. I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Look, if you know anybody that should be a guest on Joe Knows South Lake, reach out to me. You can reach me by phone, by email, by text. You can private message me through Facebook. You can even private message me, I believe, through our website. So please reach out to me. If you know anybody that should be an advertiser or a sponsor of the show or South Lake TV, and here's the secret, you should be a sponsor or an advertiser on South Lake TV. We're the only local station covering local people, local organizations with local problems. So let us solve your problem with your business and advertise. Now, that's enough for my shameless plug. I think I'm going to make shameless plug a part of the show, Jay. Finally, I want to remind you that there is greatness inside you. And as Dr. Zubkin has showed us today, he's using his greatness to bring the greatness out of others. I want to dare you to do that today. Use your greatness to bring the greatness out of somebody else. With that said, I will see you tomorrow. We're actually talking about alternative solutions. We have a woman. I'm sorry, I had a mind blank. For the owner of the your CBD store here in Claremont is coming to speak with us about CBD and some alternate treatments for pain and that sort of thing. Again, on the cutting edge of culture here at Joe Knows South Lake. So I will see you tomorrow. Tune in. It'll be a very, very good show. I am just having a hard time this morning. I'm sorry. It's all fun and games till you go live. At any rate, I'll see you tomorrow, and I love you. Bye-bye. My name is Joe. 20 years ago, my wife and I moved to Lake County with our 4 young children and settled down. In that time, we've worked, worshiped, played, and raised our family. Today, I've met the people and discovered the businesses and organizations that make up a vibrant, dynamic community. Join us as we share with you what makes South Lake great. I'm Joe, and Joe Knows South Lake.